The floor of the ocean has always been associated with strange legends and fantastic creatures. Most of these are, of course, mythical figures, but there is on record in a serious and scientific publication of the Danish Meteorological Society a description of a form so incredible that it staggers the imagination of man, a form which actually exists and was actually observed.
The steamship Bintang was a merchant vessel belonging to the Danish East Asiatic Company. At 3 o'clock on the morning of June 10th, 1909, it was plowing its way through the calm waters of the Straits of Malacca. At 3:15, Captain Gabe, who had retired several hours before, was awakened from a sound sleep. One of the crew was pounding violently at his door.
Well, what is it?
Captain, open the door, sir. Hurry!
What is it, man? Good Lord, what's happened?
By the dim rays of the lantern, the captain could see the expression on the sailor's face. He could see the pallor of his cheeks and the stark terror in his eyes.
Well, answer me, man. What's happened?
You'd better come up and see for yourself. It's a wheel, sir, on the water. Or I should say in it. And it is coming toward us. And if one spoke of it even so much as touches us, we will be smashed in 1,000 pieces.
On deck, Captain Gabe found the entire crew huddled at the rail on the starboard side. They were silent and motionless, frozen with fear. And then he clutched the arm of the sailor beside him and gasped,
What in the name of heaven is that thing?
As far as the eye could reach, the sea was illuminated by a great wheel of light that revolved slowly just beneath the surface of the water. The fiery center of the wheel, though far out, was clearly visible. From it extended the spokes to which the sailor had referred, arms so long that they stretched beyond the horizon on one side and came within 30 yards of the boat on the other. And as they turned on their axis, they moved closer and closer to the ship's keel.
It's an optical illusion, men. There's no wheel out there at all. It must be the reflection of our own light.
But I never heard of a reflection stretching clear to the horizon. And I never saw one moving at a different speed and in a different direction from the thing that's being reflected.
Well, that's true. Perhaps another ship somewhere.
But the lookouts reported 5 minutes ago that there ain't another ship around, sir.
The captain and the crew stood staring at the monstrous mechanism, waiting for it to strike. And then, slowly, the light of the wheel grew dimmer, and the whole apparatus seemed gradually to sink deeper into the water. The ship glided smoothly and safely over the spot where it had been, and nothing remained as evidence that it had ever been seen. The submarine voyager, some have suggested, a visitor from space, has been the opinion of others, while most have simply accepted it as one of the many insoluble mysteries of the sea. A mystery, incredible but true.
Unsolved Mysteries. Down the ages, man has been seeking the answer to the riddle, what happens in the unseen realm beyond? With all our science, we're as far from answering that question as man was in the beginning. But with the accumulated records of the past, the conviction is borne strongly upon some that there is a link joining us mortals with those who have passed this way before. The scene is a famous American newspaper correspondent's home. It is evening, and a group of guests are seated around the table enjoying their after-dinner coffee and cigars. The log fire casts a ruddy glow over the room, and the soft candlelight throws grotesque shadow shapes on the walls and ceiling as the guests settle themselves more comfortably in their chairs.
But seriously, Bert, well, that was a good story, well told. You don't really believe in ghosts?
Now, before I answer that question, let me ask you one.
Go ahead.
Do you completely, wholly, and absolutely disbelieve in them?
Joe, when you put it that way, I'm not sure that I can answer you, Bert. I suppose in their heart of hearts, most men, while they won't admit it, do have a secret belief in ghosts or something similar.
What do you say, Jackson? You're a newspaper man of wide experience. Have you ever run into what you might call a true ghost story in your newspaper work?
Yes, I have. An experience of my own, and one, in fact, to which I owe my life.
Exactly, Jackson. It was that experience of yours that I had in mind.
What is that, Jackson? Something we haven't heard about?
I don't tell it to many people.
But you will tell it to us.
Why don't you, Jackson? It's going to be published next month anyway.
All right. As you fellows know, I was foreign correspondent of the Sketch Mirror Group, and one of my assignments was to interview celebrities before they became celebrities. Well, I had to make a quick trip to England. It looked very much as if the Asquith government was about to fall, and that Lloyd George would be in the saddle. So I had to interview Lloyd George before the news broke. I concluded my interview and was all ready to leave when I met an old friend. He had become a lord since I first knew him, but that made no difference to him. And the result was that I found myself in their Northumberland home, being greeted by her ladyship and her very charming daughter.
Cheerio there, Major. Hello, sis. I want you both to meet a very old friend of mine, Jackson.
Well, not you, Mr. Jackson.
The very same.
Oh, I'm so glad to meet you, Mr. Jackson. Keith has spoken of you so much.
And I'm delighted to meet Keith's mother and sister.
Oh, come, Evelyn, dear. We mustn't keep Mr. Jackson standing in the cold.
We shan't want the carriage any more tonight, Dobbs.
Very good, sir. All right.
Baxter will take your traps up. Come right into the hall and get your bones thrown out.
Thanks, old man. It is a bit chilly out.
Riding up to the house here in a carriage is an experience to one accustomed to riding in a closed car. We don't use the car much up here, and tonight Arthur has it down in the village, getting in some supplies.
It was charming, even if chilly. But then this open fire makes up for all the cold.
Drink, Jackson?
Oh, thanks, yes.
Stay one.
Thanks.
Oh, here's how.
Oh, did you boys have dinner tonight?
Thank you, we did, on the train. And by the way, I take back all I've ever thought or said about dinners on an English train. That was one of the best meals I ever had.
Possibly you were more hungry than usual.
There's something I must say, even if all the books ever written on etiquette say that it's contrary to good taste.
What is that, Mr. Jackson? I'm sure we'll forgive you.
Your home. It is without question the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Why, when we were driving up the hill, it looked like some picture out of a children's storybook. A picture of an old medieval castle. The drawbridge, the portcullis, the moat, the towers, and the turrets.
It is somewhat of a medieval castle. The north wing was built in the days of Henry II, and each generation since has added its little bit. And we added electric lights and plumbing.
The plumbing with the devout approval of the family, the electric lights against my own most ardent objection.
Well, with electric lights and plumbing, I can't think of anything more to be desired.
We even have one of the best ghosts in all England.
Yes? By Jove, sis. You might at least give a chap time to warm his feet before you drag out the family skeleton.
Our ghost is not a skeleton. You shouldn't say things like that. You must forgive Evelyn, Mr. Jackson. But Lady Evelyn's ghost is almost an obsession with Evelyn.
Well, I'm sure that if Lady Evelyn's ghost is half as charming as you are, Miss Evelyn, then she's a ghost I'd like very much to meet.
Oh, thank you. Let's go to the gallery and show Mr. Jackson Lady Evelyn's portrait. No, my dear.
I'd be delighted, really, if it isn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all, Jackson. In fact, we're all tired, since the gallery's on the way to the bedroom.
Come along, Mr. Jackson. You come with me. You see, Mr. Jackson, Lady Evelyn's ghost is a very special ghost. She always warns us of any impending disaster.
And do you always heed her warning?
We do now, since she warned Mother about Father. Father paid no attention. He was killed, just as the ghost warned Mother he would be.
Is that the only instance?
Oh, no. It's a family tradition dating back several hundred years. Here's the gallery. I'll switch on the lights.
No need to tell me which one. There she is.
Yes.
Why, it could be a portrait of you.
I say, old man, Don't pay too much attention to what Evelyn tells you about the family skeleton, you know.
Keith is quite right, Mr. Jackson. Evelyn is unduly enthusiastic.
She's not any more enthusiastic than I am. I'm enjoying the whole thing immensely. Fact is, I'd rather like to meet this ghost, Lady Evelyn.
Then why don't you sleep in the haunted wing?
No, my dear, my dear.
Yes, by Jove. Invite a fellow up here, and the first night you want to stick him in the haunted wing.
But Jackson did sleep in the haunted wing. The wind howled dismally among the turrets and along the roof leads. The oak-paneled walls creaked as night wore on and the cold became more intense. One by one, the sounds in the old castle died away, and soon Jackson fell into a sound sleep. He wakened with a feeling that someone was in the room. Sat up in the big four-poster bed. A woman stood against the far wall.
Miss Evelyn, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, playing the part of the ghost.
But the figure shook its head, turned a pair of luminous eyes on him, and started to write on the wall. For a moment, the warning message blazed out in letters of fire. Jackson closed his eyes and looked again.
A trick. She's writing with phosphorus or something.
Again, the figure shook its head, gave him a searching look that went right through him, and turning, walked out of the room through the 3-foot stone wall.
By George, 8 o'clock. I didn't realize I was taking so long to tell this story. We'll be late for the theater.
Oh, hang the theater. Finish the story.
Yes,
sure.
Well, I did my best to disregard the ghost warning. His lordship drove me to the boat. Or I should say he tried to, but the car broke down. I missed the boat. And 2 days later, Keith, with a face as white as a sheet, handed me the morning paper. In glaring headlines, I read, "Steamship Titanic sunk. All on board lost." I thought that was an exaggeration. But I might have been one of the more than 1,000 who were lost.
Good Lord. What did the warning that was written on the wall say?
Beware of the Titanic. Nothing more. I told her ladyship next morning, and she was the one who instructed the chauffeur when she found I was determined to sail. She instructed him to break the car, if necessary, to prevent my sailing on the Titanic.
Now, do you fellows believe in ghosts?
Imagination or not, Jackson, old boy, we're glad you missed the Titanic. And we're darn glad you're here to be our host at this dinner party. Well, we've got time for one toast and off to the theater.
Out of deference to people who are still alive, character names in these unsolved mysteries have been changed. Inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and character exist in the solution that will be presented after you have heard from your sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution for which you've been waiting.
Of course, I don't blame you for believing in ghosts after an experience like that. But just the same, you can't really explain it.
I think I can.
I'd like to hear you.
Have you ever met a perfect stranger and had the strange sensation of having met him somewhere before?
Yes, certainly.
Well, the same thing applies to buildings. And the older these buildings are, the more vibration of previous happenings there will be to make their effect upon you.
You mean to say that if I go into a building where a murder has been committed, I'll be aware of a strange feeling?
You will, if you're sufficiently sensitive.
I'll agree there, but that doesn't explain actually seeing what is generally called a ghost.
If you've ever tried lying down in perfect ease and comfort, allowing your imagination to drift back to some particularly memorable scene, the picture will come to you as vividly as if it had happened yesterday. Or take an author writing a story. The characters are just as real in his mind as any group of living people about whom he has only read.
I'll agree to all that.
Very well. Don't you think that if, over a period of centuries, people living in a certain house are all agreed that the ghost of a beautiful woman haunts the house, don't you think that that impression will impress itself very strongly upon a stranger who sleeps in the so-called haunted room?
Yes, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I really do think that if a sufficient number of people all think along one line, something is going to result. And, of course, you were thinking of your trip on the Titanic as well as the ghost.
So you're willing to admit that concentrated thinking will produce a manifestation. Then if that's the case, why deny that an extremely emotional incident would produce a similar manifestation?
Hey, there's something to that, isn't there?
Yeah, you've got me almost convinced. But just the same, I'll have a stronger belief in ghosts when I meet one face to face.
Well, if I ever meet a ghost, I hope it will be like the ghost of the Lady Evelyn. One that will have such good intentions bred in it that even if I'm a stranger, it will warn me of any impending disaster.
Of course, the ghost of Lady Evelyn would have warned anyone who had been in the room, whether or not they had had any intention of sailing on the Titanic. That part of it, I think, is coincidence.
Do you?
In today's modern world, we tend to ridicule the idea that there are people possessed of the power of transforming themselves into animals. Yet, every now and then, a story appears in the chronicles of the strange and the incredible that makes us pause to wonder. Consider, for example, the case of Carl Janus.
When the writer Maurice Russell retired to a lonely cabin in the mountains of northern Georgia, he took with him voluminous notes which were to form the basis of his next novel. But he did not know then that the most intriguing, the most tantalizing story that he would ever write lay not in his carefully kept files, but in the creature who bore the name of Carl Janus.
Yes? Come in. Good morning.
At the sound of that voice, Russell whirled around.
My name's Janus. I just moved into the hut down the valley. Well, I'm glad to know you.
His new neighbor's appearance had shocked him to the core. His brows were shaggy, and his black beard failed to conceal his remarkably powerful jaws. The hands were covered with thick hair and tapered off in long, dirty, claw-like nails. And his front teeth protruded like fangs.
Why, he's like an animal.
A week later, Russell stumbled on the answer. It was during a conversation with another neighbor, Saul Pritchard, who had dropped into the cabin with a piece of bad news.
Tom Westerfield's boy, walking along the road last night, and all of a sudden this critter jumped out at him and darn near tore him to pieces. Says it might have been a big dog or wildcat or even a wolf.
That's it, of course. That's what he looks like. A wolf.
In the 2 months that followed, 4 other men were also attacked. And then, on a certain night, when Saul Pritchard was returning from a trip to town, his wagon had just rounded a sharp curve on Little Bald Mountain, and suddenly his horse reared back and whinnied in terror.
It's the wolf.
As he spoke, the wolf, who had been crouched on a boulder at the side of the road, sprang through the air. Saul Pritchard seized a pitchfork that lay beside him in the wagon. He raised it in front of him to guard himself, and the beast's body, hurtling against the improvised weapon with terrific force, was impaled on the prong. Saul did not wait to see whether it was dead or not. But the following morning, searchers who returned to the scene found only the bloody pitchfork. Afterward, as time passed, and no more attacks ensued on the roads around Bald Mountain, the inhabitants concluded that they were at last rid of the killer. But the writer, Maurice Russell, has added a significant footnote. A few nights after Saul Pritchard's encounter with the wolf, Russell and Pritchard visited Carl Janus' hut. No one responded to their knocking. Janus lay motionless on his bed. His shirt front was stained with blood. Russell unbuttoned the shirt and examined the body carefully.
That pitchfork you used, Saul, it had 3 prongs?
Yes, that's right. Why do you ask?
Because there are no holes in Carl Janus' shirt. But there are 3 deep gashes in his chest.
Yes, the man, Carl Janus, the man whose appearance in the community had been simultaneous with the appearance of the wolf, had died with marks on him which one might have expected only the wolf to bear. Let those who scoff at the werewolf tradition, let them explain this astonishing story. A story incredible but true.
Unsolved Mysteries. Act of Providence is a phrase so carelessly used today as to have almost lost the very significance of its meaning. But at no time has it held so much meaning as in the true historical case of the Crown versus John Applegate, as reported in the Newgate Calendar. The scene is the Sessions Court of the County of Middlesex. The courthouse fronts the village green, and the holiday attire of the villagers, the laughter of children, and the entire atmosphere is one of gaiety, a gaiety almost beyond our comprehension, since the occasion of it is a murder trial. Laughter gives way to excited chattering. Dame Rumor has it that the jury have reached a verdict. Justice Selden, white-wigged and black-gowned, mounts to the bench. The small square of black cloth lying ready to the sessions clerk's hand rivets the prisoner's eyes as he's marched to the dock.
Hear ye, the Second Court of the County of Middlesex now in session. Chief Justice Selden presiding. All stand while the justice and the jury have taken their places in the court.
Know ye then, John Applegate, that you must face the jury and prepare to abide by their verdict. How say ye, gentlemen of the jury? You find the prisoner guilty or not guilty?
We find the prisoner, John Applegate, guilty of murder, as charged in the indictment read by the sessions clerk.
John Applegate, you have heard the verdict returned against you. Have you anything to say why the sentence of death should not be carried out upon you?
Your Honor, I'm not guilty. I swear it. I was never at the Rose and Thistle Tavern. I never saw the murdered man. I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty.
5 men and 4 women have identified you. You say that you spent the night in company with a gentleman of quality. But no gentleman, either quality or of the common, has come forward to bear your witness.
I don't know who he was, Your Honor. I never saw him before. I only know I'm not guilty.
John Applegate, hear this. The sentence of death is to be carried out upon you. You shall be taken from this place to the place whence you came, and thence to the public gallows, where you shall be hanged by the neck until you be dead, dead, dead. And may Almighty God have mercy upon your soul.
Amen.
In those days, public hangings were regarded as a legitimate entertainment, and the old men loitering around the gallows being erected by the public executioner and his assistants discussed previous hangings they had attended. In his dank cell, John Applegate prays incessantly for deliverance. His stuttered, broken sentences punctuated by the dull, ominous thud of the carpenter's hammers as the gallows grows stick by stick, beam by beam, and nail by nail.
It's time to get up.
What's that? Oh, yes. Time to get up. Odds fish. It's still dark.
You said to call you, sir, at 3 o'clock.
I did I? So? I don't remember. Where am I going that I must needs rise this early?
I don't know, sir. But you did say, sir, that you had to get to the village early.
So be it. If I did, I did. But I swear that it's beyond me. I don't know a thing of it.
Katie, have you waked the master?
Yes, Miss Janet. He'll be down directly. I don't know what's wrong with him, Miss Katie.
What do you mean, wench?
He swears that he doesn't remember giving us orders to wake him early.
He's half asleep yet. Wait till he wakes, he'll remember. Come now, hurry and set table.
Yes, Miss Janet.
And remember, wench, though breakfast be in the middle of the night, pewter must be cleaned properly.
Yes, Miss Janet.
I swear, I don't know what this is all about. I never said that I wanted to be about at 3 in the morning.
Aye, you've forgotten, sir. You came to my room last night, waked me and said, Janet, I want breakfast at 3. I must needs get to the village before 9.
But I have nothing to go to the village for. You, Katie, when did I tell you that I must rise early?
Last night, sir. Late it was, sir. Oh, I was fast asleep and you came and knocked on my door. You said, Katie, I must be up and about at dawn. I'll break fast at 3.
You've forgotten, sir. Come, master. Breakfast is ready.
Odds fish, I haven't forgotten it. I tell you, I've not to go to the village today.
Horse be saddled and ready, master.
What's this? You too, Jacob?
Me too. What ails ye, master?
Did I waken you two in the middle of the night and tell you that I must be to the village this morning early?
Indeed, and that you did, master. Don't you remember? I told you it was foolish, like, to be coming down to the stables in the cold of the night with no coat on your back.
Odds fish. It seems that I must have done.
Yes, master. You said that the best horse must be saddled and ready for the road at 3.
Come, master. You're not eating enough. If you're for the road, you can set saddle better on a full stomach.
Jacob.
Yes, master.
I never go to the stables in my slippers.
No, master.
Then if I did last night, there will be traces on the slippers. Bring them to me.
Yes, master.
It seems that I must, whether I will or not, be off to the village. I would that the good Lord would tell me what for I have no idea.
Aye, but you'll remember, master, when you're on your way.
Zounds, ye act as if my memory were leaving me.
The slippers, master.
And clean as a hound's tooth and dry as a bone, I'll be bound.
Yes, master.
This smacks of witchery. But I'll go. I'll go to the village and see what befalls. Come, Bess. Giddy up. Come on.
Down the dark highway rides Kingsley. A strange feeling, half fear, half anxiety, drives him on. And ever and anon he mutters to himself about the foolishness of the journey. 3 hours later, the horse's pace slackens. The horse knows that around the next turn is the toll bridge, which he must cross to complete the journey to the village.
What a fool I am. The bridge will be closed, locked tight, and old Jerry doesn't open it till nigh on 9.
Mr. Kingsley, sir! Mr. Kingsley, is that you?
Jerry! Jerry! Is it you, Jerry?
Ride on, master! Ride on! The bridge is open! There he is! There he is! Riding the horse! The man, the gentleman of quality I was with the night of the murder. Oh, praises to God, sir. You've saved my life.
And so John Applegate did not hang. Mr. Kingsley, gentleman of quality, identified Applegate as having been with him far from the scene of the murder. So firmly did Applegate believe that Providence had intervened because of his prayers that he forsook the world and retired to a monastery, where until his death he was called Brother Jonathan, the man whom God had saved. Out of deference to people who may still be living, character names in some of these unsolved mysteries have been changed. Inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and characters have been taken. In just a moment, you will hear a solution to the toll bridge mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution for which you have been waiting.
Do you mean to say that you have an explanation of the toll bridge mystery?
I believe I have. Of course, you understand that I'm not an authority on the subject, but in consulting writings by world authorities such as Manhood of Humanity by Alfred Korsybski, the files of the London Society of Psychical Research, and others, I've formed a definite opinion.
I see.
In the first place, further investigation of the mystery disclosed that the toll bridge keeper, old Jerry, had been warned about 12 the night before by Mr. Kingsley and told that he would be wanting to cross the bridge about 7 in the morning.
But didn't the toll gatekeeper think that strange? I mean the idea of Mr. Kingsley riding that 3-hour trip at midnight and turning around to ride home again?
Well, naturally he thought it strange, but the very strangeness of it provides the solution.
I don't quite follow you.
Well, don't you see? It was impossible for Mr. Kingsley to be at the toll gate at midnight and at the same time waken Janet, Katie, and Jacob, the groom.
Yes, of course. Kingsley couldn't have got home till 3.
It is accepted by many, and I think justifiably, that wishing precedes thinking, and wish forms precede thought forms. Now, Applegate, lying in jail and knowing that he was innocent, was wishing to be saved.
That's natural.
Applegate knew that the only person who could save him was the, as he said, gentleman of quality who would provide him with his alibi. He concentrated his every thought, his every wish on Kingsley, although he didn't know him. Since mind is everywhere, Kingsley's subconscious was aware of the dire straits of the man Applegate, and these thoughts in turn were directed toward the persons necessary to assist Kingsley in getting to the village.
In other words, Applegate's direct thoughts were taken into partnership with Kingsley's subconscious thoughts, and Katie, Janet, Jacob, and the toll bridge keeper were awakened by the strength of these thought waves, rather than by the physical appearance of Kingsley himself.
Yes. And you must not lose sight of the fact that Neither Katie, Janet, Jacob, or the toll bridge keeper had any suspicion that there was an execution impending, much less that their friend and master, Mr. Kingsley, had anything whatever to do with it. That is the final proof that the entire thing hinged on thoughts rather than anything physical.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call the rocking chair fraud. A museum aide approached me to authenticate an item being considered for the early American wing of the museum. It was a very crude wooden hobby horse that was purported to have been the inspiration for Benjamin Franklin's invention of the rocking chair. What does the seller want for this antique hobby horse, I asked. The aide replied, really more than we want to pay. Then don't, I said. It's a fake. In a moment, I'll tell you how I knew. In the case of the rocking chair fraud, the first hobby horse wasn't made until around 1800. Franklin died in 1790. Pretty difficult to get inspired when you're cold in the grave. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Unsolved Mysteries. Out of deference to people who may still be living, character names in some of these unsolved mysteries have been changed. No tale from beyond the frontier of mysterious Tibet or from the depths of dark Africa is more weird than tonight's unsolved mystery, laid in California. A mystery which, for downright eeriness, rivals the imaginative writings of an Arthur Conan Doyle. The scene is a famous war correspondent's home in Hollywood, California. A group of guests, seated comfortably on the wide veranda, watch the twinkling lights of the film colony. And every so often the stabbing finger of a giant searchlight cuts the deep blue of the sky and loses itself in the unfathomable spaces beyond. A prominent motion picture director sweeps his arm over the scene as he turns from the veranda rail to face the group.
Oh, I know everything's swell in Hollywood, but sometimes I'd like to get away from it all. Go someplace to rest where no one would ask any questions and where I could be alone.
And where no one would say yes.
Yes, instead of being asked questions and telling people what to do, I'd like to ask a few questions myself.
But would you like having someone tell you what to do? You've been an important director for a long time now. Taking orders from someone else might not be so easy.
Well, I'd like to try it. It's getting late. I guess we ought to be letting you get to bed, Bill.
Oh, don't mind me. After all, I can get up when I like. I don't have to be on the lot at dawn.
But we really ought to be going. Come on, Bob.
I'll get you a wrap.
Wait behind a minute when the others are gone, Val.
Righto.
Good night, Bill. As always, we've had a swell time.
Good night.
Good night, Bill. Good night, Val.
Sit down, Val.
Oh, why so serious, Bill?
I want to talk to you.
Yes?
Listen, old man, if you don't let up, you're going to crack. You can't go on the way you've been doing, working almost night and day, turning out super colossals. Oh, I'm not being sarcastic. Everybody knows that you're the director. But even genius must have a rest.
Yes, Bill, you're right, but
Wait. You said a few moments ago that you'd like to go somewhere where you'd do the questioning, where you'd be ordered about.
And I mean it. I wasn't just talking.
Well, I'll tell you where to go, but you must make me a promise.
Yes? I'll promise.
When I've told you, you must go. And you must go with no idea of personal profit or gain. No idea of using what you may find for picture material. Else, I don't know what might happen to you.
I promise.
Several years ago, I read a book called A Dweller on Two Planets. The man who did the physical writing claimed that one whom he called the master stood by his shoulder and dictated the entire book. I checked into the thing and found that the author was only a young boy at the time the work was done. He would have hardly had the necessary experience to write such a book. So I investigated further.
I've read the book, written by Philos.
Yes. Well, I also saw an article printed in a prominent metropolitan daily. The writer had gone to the slopes of Mount Shasta and had discovered there the same type of people that Philos had written of in his Dweller on Two Planets.
Seems to me that I read something in the Times about strange, unaccountable lights being seen from the region of Mount Shasta.
Right. And so, all in all, and being a newspaper man and of an inquisitive turn of mind, I went there.
You did?
Yes. I got to Dunsmuir in Northern California about 10 in the morning. Soon after, began making my way towards the slopes of Mount Shasta. I had a strange feeling, a feeling of expectancy. There was a deep silence, except for the singing of birds and the sound of a waterfall. I'd been sitting on a rock, I don't know how long, when...
My son, do you seek knowledge?
What? Why, where are you?
At your side.
Oh, now I see you. What was that you said?
It is of no matter. You are a newspaper man?
Yes, I am.
But you would also seek the truth?
Well, to be quite frank, I read quite a bit about the masters of Mount Shasta, and I wanted to find out for myself.
That was known to us. I have come here to speak with you.
Yes?
Certain things will be disclosed to you, but you must not use these disclosures in your newspaper work. For the benefit of mankind, you may use them, but for profit, no. It is a testament between us?
Yes, I swear it.
We go now to the temple.
Temple? What temple?
The temple of enlightenment. It is before you.
But there is no temple. There was no temple. I can't believe my eyes. There it is, all gleaming white.
Come, my son. My son, many things cannot be explained. You would have to stay among us for many years.
But at least tell me this. Who are you, and where did you come from?
We have been here always.
But why don't other people see you?
Other people do see us, my son. The visitors, the vacationists to the mountains see us. But to each is disclosed only what he wishes to see. To the tourist looking for the barefoot hermit, I am the barefoot hermit. To him who looks for a man grown old among the mountains, that is what I am. To the seeker after truth, I am a guide, the servant of the master.
But that still doesn't tell me who you are.
Some foolish ones think that we are descendants of the lost tribes of Atlantis. We were before Atlantis was.
You mean that you're centuries old, that you never die?
Death, my son, is but an illusion. Your friends in Hollywood who cannot see you, to them, you might as well be dead.
But they know I'm not. They know I'm away on a trip.
And should you decide to forsake the world and stay with us, what then would your friends think?
They'd think, that I'd suffered a lapse of memory or something.
And should the years pass and still you did not return, they would then think you dead. But you would not be. You would be with us.
I see what you mean. Things are comparative, aren't they?
Yesterday, today, tomorrow, they are one in infinity. In the great scheme of things, they are not separable. Look, if you would understand more clearly, look in the pool.
In the pool?
Yes, at your feet.
Well, I'll be.
My house. And Val sitting there on the veranda. He's talking to someone. But there's no one there.
He is talking to you, my son.
But I'm here.
But he believes that you are there.
Oh, I see now. Yes, I'm there. And the friends of the other evening, the night I made up my mind to come here.
But a bare moon pass.
If you can do that, let me see into the future.
No, my son.
I'm not afraid.
No, I have spoken. Come, there is much to see.
It's impossible to tell you of everything I saw and was told while I was there. Time meant nothing. What I'd left behind me in Hollywood meant nothing. I remember sitting thinking, and then looking up to find myself seated on the same rock I'd been sitting on that day the master first spoke to me.
Oh, you awoke to find yourself seated at the same spot.
Awoke? What do you mean?
Well, wasn't the whole thing a dream brought on by what you had anticipated?
That's what I thought at first. An extraordinarily vivid and realistic dream. But when I returned to the hotel, a few surprises awaited me.
Yes?
In the first place, I found that I'd been gone 90 days.
What?
The hotel people told me that I'd returned to the hotel, paid my room for 90 days, and told them I was going away for a time.
Was that when you sent me word that you wouldn't be back in town as early as you expected?
I never sent you any word.
But, Bill, you sent telegrams to Watkins, to Ruth, to Simpkins, and me.
You mean that you all received telegrams, but I didn't send them?
But that's impossible, man. Fantastic.
Perhaps. But you go to Shasta or to Dunsmuir and look at the telegraph company's files. You won't find any originals there. And here, let me show you something.
What?
This check. Look at it. It's the check the hotel people said that I gave them.
It looks all right to me. Your signature, all right.
Did you ever see ink as black as that?
Well, no,
Hold the check up to the light. Can you detect any signs of the scratch of a pen?
No, I admit that
That check, Val, was never taken from my checkbook. I didn't write it. It's a sample of the master's powers of materialization.
But there must be some explanation.
Yes, I think there is, and I'll try to give it to you.
In just a moment, you will hear a solution to the Mount Shasta mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and characters have been taken in this solution for which you have been waiting. Well, Bill, what about that explanation?
In the first place, do you think it's possible to think of the impossible?
Let me see if I follow you. Can I imagine the impossible? No, I don't believe I can. The very fact that I can think of something makes that something possible.
If you believe in the power of mind over matter...
Well, as far as I'm concerned, mind is all-powerful.
Now let's look at biology for an instant. Every so often, a specimen is found that is a definite link between some animal alive today and some other animal that's been extinct for centuries.
I see your drift. You mean that these people are a link between us and some long-dead people who possess powers we don't know how to use?
Yes. If you read Colonel Churchward's book on Mu, you will find logical arguments in favor of the theory that the Lemurians migrated to the North American continent.
And that some of them landed to the south and became the ancient Mayas.
Right. And the ancient Mayas certainly had something that we don't possess, as did the ancient Egyptians.
Yes, we're all too inclined to think of America as a land inhabited by nothing but warlike Indians before it was settled.
Only the other day, a skeleton was found near the La Brea pits in Los Angeles. And scientists are agreed that it's not less than 15,000 years old. So isn't it possible that descendants of these ancient peoples still live in isolated parts of the country?
And not liking our modern civilization, they simply withdraw from it?
That's it. After my experience, you can hardly blame me for believing that a strange people do live on the slopes of Mount Shasta.
The history of the workers' long and bitter struggle for a decent standard of living has been marked now and then by acts of overt violence. But there is only one case on record where such acts were committed without the knowledge or the conscious will of the workers involved, where their anger itself seemed to become an invisible force of destruction.
The remarkable affair began on the 15th of September, 1921. It was on that day that Mrs. Courtney was going about her customary domestic chores, when suddenly, without warning, an investigation into the cause of the explosion was conducted. And after a very thorough inquiry, the official in charge issued a rather startling statement.
There can be no question as to what caused the explosion. It occurred in a grate in the Courtney living room, and in that grate there was absolutely nothing but coal. In short, it was the coal itself which exploded.
During the remainder of 1921, reports of mysterious explosions came from various parts of England, from France, even from Belgium and Switzerland. The climax came on the 1st of January, 1923, when no less than 6 homes in Paris were reduced to ruins.
The coal which appears to have been responsible has been extracted from British mines. British miners have been intensely agitated over what they believe to be an unjust reduction in their wages.
But the conclusion which the official wished the public to draw was unmistakable. It was the miners themselves who had inserted dynamite or some other explosive substance into the coal before it was distributed.
We're agitated all right, as the gentleman puts it, and we got a right to be. And we're going to win a living wage for ourselves and our families. But we won't do it by taking the lives of innocent people. And we challenge his nibs to find 1 ounce of dynamite in any lump of coal that's been mined in England.
The explosions continued. And even when they were not of serious proportions, they were accompanied by examples of extraordinary behavior of the coal itself. There was, for instance, the report of the police inspector who visited the home of Mr. T.S. Frost.
He summoned me to his house, this Mr. Frost did. He pointed to a bucket of coal. I looked in, and the coal was exploding right there in the bucket. And all the while, little lumps are jumping out all around us and flying right through the walls of the room without leaving no mark behind.
Nor was the police inspector the only one who bore witness to these astounding events. There was the Reverend A.L. Gardner, vicar of St. Gabriel's. And there were all the townspeople who assembled at a public meeting to discuss the mysterious affair. None of them could explain it. Indeed, the only adequate explanation for the whole sequence of explosions was one offered at the time by a certain unidentified miner.
We never put no dynamite in the coal, but don't forget they've been cutting our wages and we've been starving. And we're angry men. And anger itself is dynamite. Who's to say that our anger ain't strong enough to transmit itself, so to speak, into a lump of coal?
That the emotions of the oppressed and the underprivileged could be communicated to an inanimate object. This is beyond belief. And because it is beyond belief, the story of the exploding coal remains to this day incredible but true.
There was nothing uncommon about the ghost at the Royal Irish Constabulary Barrack. And the only reason for singling him out is just because he was typical, because he was responsible for things which simply couldn't happen if there were no ghosts.
The old house, which had been chosen as a police barrack, seemed particularly cozy and comfortable to Constable Kelly on that bitter winter night when he came off duty at 12 o'clock. The rest of the force had retired. The guard was nowhere in sight. And so the constable settled down in the kitchen, removed his shoes, and placed his frozen feet on the hob before a blazing fire. He had just lit his pipe and taken one or two deep, satisfying puffs when he heard... Now, it was not an unfamiliar sound. The lockup was a one-story lean-to opening off the kitchen. Inebriated gentlemen would frequently awaken in the middle of the night and express their righteous indignation by rattling the iron door of their cell. The sound was repeated with increasing vigor, and at length Constable Kelly's compassion outweighed his sense of propriety. He arose and, taking a candle from the table, approached the door to the lean-to. Selecting a key from his key ring, he opened it. There were two cells in the lockup, one behind the other, and the iron door stood between them. Constable Kelly found the first one empty.
Well, no. That's a queer thing indeed.
And so it was. For the constable's candle revealed that the second cell was empty also, and the iron door was locked and bolted. Carefully locking the door behind him, the constable returned to his place by the fire. But barely had he relit his pipe when...
No. What in the world was that?
He jumped to his feet again, picked up the candle, and once more strode toward the lean-to. But before he reached it, he stopped abruptly and staggered back with a gasp of amazement.
Great jumping Jehoshaphat. Both doors are wide open.
Yes, both doors. The iron one which he knew had been bolted, and the outer wooden one which he himself had locked with his own key, both were standing ajar. And there was no one but himself, either in the cells or in the kitchen. The following evening, Kelly was assigned to guard duty. He had brought his mattress downstairs and had laid it across two tables in the center of the room. Now he picked up a magazine and, stretching himself out on the makeshift bed, began to thumb through its pages. It was at that moment that the thing happened.
Now, who's doing that? Stop it, will you? Cut it out. Stop trying to shove me out of bed.
The constable leaped to his feet and threw back the covers. He looked under the table on which the mattress was resting. He glanced slowly and cautiously around the room.
Well, now, I must have been dreaming.
And having thus reassured himself, he started to lie down, but...
Hey! What's in the name of him? Hey! Oh! Well, no. What do you know about that?
Not until he had removed his bed to another part of the room was Constable Kelly able to remain in it for more than 30 seconds. This was not the last of the strange events which occurred at the Royal Irish Constabulary, and which were attested to by all of the officers who resided there. We may glibly say that there are no ghosts. But then how shall we account for the thousands of authenticated ghost stories? Stories incredible but true.
Unsolved Mysteries. Some crimes of murder are mysteries because the murderer, having foreseen every difficulty of avoiding detection, has successfully overcome these difficulties and has therefore actually avoided detection. But there are crimes in which the mystery lies in the manner in which the crime was committed. Such is the case of the bridge whist expert, as the New York police termed the slaying of J.B. Maxwell in his apartment, 644 West 70th Street, New York City. Since some of the characters are still alive, names of characters and places have been changed, but the dramatic reenactment is authentic in every detail.
The scene is the 600 block West 70th Street, New York. The mailman on his rounds waves to a milkman across the street. Police Officer Brown saunters down the sidewalk, and at that moment, a woman walks down the street, up the steps to number 644, takes out a latch key, opens the door, and walks into the apartment as the clock strikes 8.
Mr. Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell, I brought you. Help!
What's the matter, lady?
He's been shot.
Shot? Where? Tell me, I'll have a look.
In here. He was still breathing when I walked into his room.
Well, he's dead now. Drilled clean through the head. What'll I call headquarters? Hello? Hello?
That phone's out of order.
Well, I'll use the one next door. Hey, you, milkman. Instead of standing there at the door gaping, get on the phone and call headquarters. Okay, I'll get him right away. You haven't touched the body?
No, I should say not.
Who are you, anyways, wife?
No, he wasn't married. I'm his housekeeper. I came in just a few minutes ago. I was going to tell him something. I came in here and found him like this.
You were out, huh? You leave the door open when you went out?
No, I was just coming in for the day. I live at my own home.
You found the door locked?
Yes, I had to use my key to get in.
How many people have keys?
Only me and Mr. Maxwell and...
Yeah?
Well, the lock was changed only last week.
Anybody can get in through the back door?
There is no back door. There's a basement door. It's bolted on the inside. Mr. Maxwell must have killed himself. Nobody could have got in.
Killed himself and then went out and hid the gun, I suppose.
Well, I didn't think about the gun.
Anybody here with him last night?
Not before I left.
Maxwell smoke load of cigarettes?
Not that I know of.
Or was this one here on the mantel shelf when you left last night? Been left burning and charred the shelf.
It wasn't here when I left.
Well, this is probably the DA and his investigators.
There's something else I don't understand.
There's a lot I don't understand.
But Mr. Maxwell wore a wig, and he had artificial teeth. He was very particular that nobody ever saw him without them. And yet he...
Yeah. He doesn't have on his wig, and he doesn't have his teeth in.
Where are you, officer?
That's the DA. And here, Mr. Wilson.
What have you,
found out, officer? Well, he was shot through the head. House was locked, both doors locked on the inside, and no gun.
He was reading his morning mail when he was shot.
Yes, Harry. Who got him his mail?
He must have got it himself.
He was dead when you came in?
No, he was still breathing.
And he could have let the murderer in himself.
Yeah, but the murderer couldn't get out.
No? Who are you?
The milkman. I called you at headquarters. I was in the street delivering milk for 20 minutes and not a soul but the mailman.
The mailman? You saw him?
Sure. I waved to him.
How long before this woman, Mrs. Lawson, arrived?
Oh, less than 5 minutes. Now, wait a minute. Let's get this straight. No one has come out of this house since the mailman delivered the mail?
No.
Then whoever killed Maxwell is still in the house.
Sorry, Mr. Carey, but that won't do. I searched the place while we were talking in here, and there's no one in this flat beside us.
Yeah, wait a minute. Maybe you didn't see anyone come out of this flat, but someone did. That's that. Well, Mr. Wilson, I was walking my beat, and I would have seen anyone leave.
Then he was killed earlier than we think.
Oh, couldn't be, Carey. He's got the mail in his hand.
Oh, yes. I realized that as soon as I spoke.
Here's something else to puzzle over. Look at the bullet hole smack in the center of his forehead. Yeah, but look where the bullet hit the wall. Can you beat that? Now then, where would a man have to stand in order to fire a shot on that angle?
Over about here, sir. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's all right except for one thing. You're standing 15 feet away from Maxwell, and the shot was fired within 3 feet. See the powder burns?
Well, the man would have to be lying down on the floor to fire the shot at that angle and leave powder burns.
So it would seem. But what was Maxwell doing, waiting for the murderer to take aim? Got me beat.
It's got more than you beat. Wilson.
Yes?
I'm going out for a minute. Going to call the phone company.
Yes?
Yes. I've got an idea. I'll be back in a few minutes. See if you can dig up any more of them.
Whoever killed Maxwell must have been well known to him. Well, we know that because he admitted the murder himself. He must have. But more than that, he was particular about his appearance. Mrs. Larson said so. He wouldn't have admitted anybody, that is, anybody he didn't know very well, without first putting on his wig and putting in his artificial teeth. So? So the murderer was a man and not a woman. And he was a man from whom Maxwell had no secrets. All good reasoning, Brown. But it neither gives us a motive nor does it explain how the murderer got out without being seen. Yeah, but Mr. Wilson, it does help to explain how the murderer got close enough to Maxwell to kill him at 3 feet without arousing his suspicion. You're right, Brown. You're dead right. Your idea at least narrows the field of search down to Maxwell's immediate friends. Oh, here's Carey. What'd you find out?
Plenty. Say, Brown, that this phone was out of order this morning?
Yes, sir. I tried to use it, and Mrs. Larson said
I said that the phone had been out of order for several days.
Well, listen to this. The phone company's records show a call, an incoming call at 3 this morning.
Then Maxwell called Rockaway, 1841. And at 6-9, he called a number in Garden City. But you, Mrs. Larson, say that the phone has been out of order for days.
I know it has, because the other day the chauffeur drove over here instead of phoning because he said the phone wouldn't work.
Well, it's beyond me. The fellow's shot through the head, apparently makes no effort to fight, must have been shot by someone lying on the floor. Doors, both of them bolted, the house under observation for at least 20 minutes, and a man doesn't live that long with a bullet through his brain. I tell you what. Yeah, what, D.A.? This place has me jittery. Let's go down to headquarters, send out the fingerprint boys, and talk it over down in my office where things like this don't happen.
The fingerprint boys went out to the Maxwell flat. They found nothing. No fingerprints but those of the legitimate occupants of the house. The cigarette on the mantel shelf? The Lotus cigarette meant nothing. The investigators never knew before that the Lotus brand of cigarette was so popular. The DA's remarks about talking it over in the office became a joke to the department because every day Carey, Brown, the police surgeon, Wilson, and the fingerprint boys collected there to discuss the murder of the bridge whist expert.
I tell you, Chief, it was robbery.
Oh, rubbish. The man had $500 in bills in his pants pocket. $5,000 worth of jewelry lying loose on his bureau.
And if it were robbery, how come the thief gets within 3 feet of him before he plugs him?
And I don't care if it's robbery, mayhem, or anything else. That doesn't explain how the murderer got into a locked house, windows bolted, killed a man with a .45, must lie on the floor to do it, walks out with the milkman watching, a milkman who swears that no one left the house.
Backed up by the policeman on the beat.
Yes, and the woman, the housekeeper, who says that the murdered man was breathing when she entered the room. Hey, everybody in the neighborhood seems to have been watching the house, and no one, not a soul, sees the murderer leave.
And not a soul hears the shot. What's that you said? Not a soul heard the shot.
My gosh, there's the solution, if only we knew how to apply it.
What have we missed? 8 o'clock, he's dead. Shot through the brain. Powder burns showed the shot was fired within 3 feet. Doors locked. Police outside. Milkman outside. Postman brings mail. So we know he was killed after that. Do we?
Listen, that's the second puzzling remark you've passed in 5 minutes.
Not a soul heard the shot. And do we? The chance remarks of a policeman on the beat. But they were the answers to the riddle which has haunted New York's police department for 15 years. But we believe that we have an answer. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution for which you have been waiting. The scene is the 600 block West 70th Street. A few minutes before 8. A figure, the mailman, walks down the street and up the steps to number 644, rings the bell.
Oh, forgot some mail, did you? I just came to the door a moment ago and got the mail.
No, I'm not the mailman.
You? What on earth is the idea of the disguise?
Don't keep me standing here. You got my letter?
Yes, I got it. Come in. Come in here. You, don't mind if I continue to read my mail?
I'm only interested in one letter in your mail.
Yes?
Yes. Will you give it to me?
No, I won't.
You know what I said to you yesterday over the phone?
Quite well. And I haven't changed my proposition one little bit.
Listen, J.B. As a mother, I'll go down on my knees to plead with you.
Get up off your knees and forget the melodrama.
Look here, J.B. In my handbag...
You little fool. Don't touch that gun.
Listen, J.B. I'm going to kill you.
You idiot. You can't get away with this.
Oh, I can. I planned it. Don't move. I'm promising you. If you move, I'll kill you. You asked about my disguise. Now is it clear? No one notices a mailman. And this gun, J.B. You recognize it. My husband's. It has a silencer. But you, J.B., won't even hear it click. Now the letter. Where is it? Under the chair. I'll move it. Oh, he's not so heavy.
The kneeling woman, the moved chair. These were the two things which confused the police when they investigated the acute angle the bullet had made. The mailman's disguise suggested itself to the woman because it was a letter she wished to recover from Maxwell. The mailman's disguise was what confused the witnesses as to the time element. Some of them saw the real mailman, others the murderer in disguise. So, the murderer, partly by luck and partly by planning, had left the New York police another unsolved mystery.
Unsolved Mysteries. Down the ages, man has been seeking the answer to the riddle, what happens in the unseen realm beyond? With all our science, we're as far from answering that question as man was in the beginning. But with the accumulated records of the past, the conviction is borne strongly upon some that there is a link joining us mortals with those who have passed this way before. The scene is a famous American newspaper correspondent's home.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call the Telltale Desk. A death was reported at a big midtown office building one morning. The only suspect was a man named Dwight, who was an associate of the dead man. Dwight said, "The man came storming into my office while I was hanging my coat, lunged for the top right-hand drawer of my desk, and pulled out my personal revolver. In the struggle, the gun went off. I asked Dwight if he was in the habit of locking his desk, and he said he only locked the middle drawer. Then you're lying, I said. In a moment, I'll explain why." In the case of the Telltale Desk, most desk drawers are automatically locked by the middle drawer alone. Dwight said the dead man lunged for the right-hand drawer, which would have been locked. An oversight, but a big one. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
We believe that dream symbols are merely the expression of our own suppressed fears and desires, and we feel safe in disregarding them. But if this be true, how do we explain a dream such as the dream experienced by the Reverend Charles Morgan?
It was the Reverend Morgan's custom each Sunday afternoon to post conspicuously in the Rosedale Church of Winnipeg, Canada, the hymns which were to be sung at the evening service. But on this particular Sunday afternoon in the spring of 1912, the church organist came to him to register a complaint.
But always the same ones, Reverend. Can't the congregation ever sing a new hymn?
Nothing the matter with the old ones, is there, Martha?
No, sir. Nothing's the matter with them. Only it'd be kind of nice to try a different one for a change.
But I feel no need to experiment with a new hymn as long as these serve the purpose so well.
But that, of course, was before the Reverend Morgan had had his dream. The dream came when he had lain down, as he usually did, for a short nap between dinner and the evening service. The moment he closed his eyes, he was asleep. And almost immediately, he saw himself walking down the aisle of his church between rows of empty pews. And on one pew lay a book, a hymnal, and its pages were opened. He bent down to read what was written there. And he could hear his own voice forming the words,
"Hymn number 42.
And then suddenly, he was driving a car along an open country road. And in front of him loomed an enormous signboard, bearing 3 words in huge black letters.
Hymn number 42.
When the Reverend Morgan awoke, he went immediately to his desk, and picking up his hymnal, opened it to the 42nd hymn. It was an unfamiliar one. It had never been sung in his church before. An hour later, he stood in the pulpit, looking down on his congregation. And until that instant, he had fully intended to ignore the dreams. But now, suddenly, the compulsion became too strong for him, and with something akin to amazement, he heard himself saying,
I have been asked to introduce new hymns from time to time into our evening service. I think it is a wise suggestion. The congregation will sing hymn number 42, which begins, Hear, Father, while we pray to thee for those in peril on the sea.
As the organist began playing the introductory chords to the new hymn, neither she, nor the Reverend Morgan, nor the men and women of the Rosedale Church suspected that at that very moment, out on the endless expanses of the gray, churning Atlantic Ocean, a wireless operator sat in his cabin pounding out a frantic message. Yes, it was 2:20 a.m. of the 15th of April, 1912, that the White Star liner Titanic, the largest ship afloat, went to the bottom of the Atlantic with a loss of 1,500 lives. And 2:20 a.m. April 15th was 7:20 p.m. April 14th in Winnipeg, Canada, the city where the congregation of the Rosedale Church was singing a hymn for sailors in distress, singing it only because their minister had had a strange and insistent dream. A dream incredible but true.
The news of the world, Wednesday, February 25th. Once again, Columbia's correspondents in world capitals and in the fighting zones in the Western Pacific are ready to give you the latest news direct by shortwave radio. This morning, we shall call in London, Los Angeles, and try to bring a direct report from somewhere on Java. In addition, Harry Marble will report on the news at points not covered by our direct pickup. But first, here are the highlights. Allied warplanes have gone into action over MacArthur Straits again. 2 enemy transports were sunk. A 3rd Jap transport was sunk elsewhere. Fighting continues on Bali, Sumatra, and Timor. Japanese raiders appeared over many points in Java and again raided Port Moresby. Now, Harry Marble.
In just a moment, we will call in Java, but first, the news in Russia. Russian troops were declared officially today to have crushed Germany's 16th Field Army. The Soviet forces surrounded the Germans in the Stalia Russa sector 10 days ago. When the Nazi commander refused to surrender, the Red Army attacked. A special high command communique this morning declared laconically that a few days ago, the operations were concluded. And according to the Russians, they were concluded after 12,000 Germans had been killed, 3 divisions shattered, and vast stores of war equipment captured. This battle is big enough to rival the fighting in the Smolensk sector to the south. Now, for the news direct from abroad, we switch to the Dutch East Indies, to somewhere in Java, for the news by William J. Dunn.
This is Java. Enemy bombers varied their anti-airport campaign in Java yesterday with a prolonged attack on the harbor at Tanjung Priok, waterfront suburb of Batavia, according to tonight's communique of the NEI fighting forces. The attack was carried out by 16 planes, which came over in formation and, when forced to break formation by Dutch anti-aircraft fire, returned to the scene in small groups and carried out their attacks individually. Although the attacks lasted for approximately an hour, the communique says damages and losses were small, as nearly all of the bombs dropped into the water. Actually, there was very little shipping in the harbor at Tanjung Priok yesterday, nor has there been for the past 2 days. Batavians are still unable to understand why the Japanese delayed this long-expected attack so long, because an air raid timed to follow the evacuation of Singapore could hardly have failed to result in enormous losses. The same might have been said in the first 2 weeks of war in Rangoon, when I personally inspected millions of dollars worth of war materials for China and Burma, piled 2 to 3 stories high along nearly 2 miles of docks. By waiting more than 2 weeks to make their first attack on Rangoon, the Japanese gave the Allies time to disperse by far the greater portion of this invaluable war material, or started on its way up the treacherous Burma Road. Yesterday's attack on Tanjung Priok was followed immediately by an attack on an aerodrome in the same vicinity, but burning gasoline drums are the only damage reported. The Dutch also announced an enemy attack on naval objectives near Surabaya, but very little damage resulted. Yesterday's air activities over various parts of Java resulted in one Japanese fighter and one Japanese bomber known to have been shot down, while 3 other fighters and 5 of the bombers are believed to have met the same fate. The communique explains that the peculiar terrain of Java makes it very hard to trace destroyed aircraft, which reach the ground at remote locations, and only planes actually traced are reported destroyed. Not all the news from Java tonight is unpleasant from the Allied point of view. The destruction of 3 enemy transport ships by Allied planes in the course of actions against Japanese concentrations near Macassar was announced today. This is the first time that Macassar, or any of the more important points in the outer provinces, has appeared in any communique in more than a week, and would tend to indicate that resistance to the enemy at these points is now confined to aerial action. Allied aircraft attacked an aerodrome in the vicinity of Palambang and bombed 3 enemy planes on the ground, setting them afire. There is no announcement of air activity over Java during the past 12 hours, but formations of enemy bombers were sighted at several points in West Java, and attacks on an airport in that vicinity resulted in slight damage. There were no casualties. This is William J. Dunn in Java. I return you now to Columbia.
And now for news of our own West Coast, we take you to Los Angeles and the report of Byron Palmer.
Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific Wartime this morning. The anti-aircraft guns began barking during a blackout ordered by the 4th Interceptor Command at 2:25 a.m. The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach. Army officials declined to comment on the possibility that the object might have been a blimp. However, it required nearly 30 minutes to travel some 25 miles, far slower than an airplane. Watchers on the rooftop of the Columbia Broadcasting Building in the heart of Hollywood could plainly see the flashes of guns and searchlights sweeping the skies in a wide arc along the coastal area. Concussion of the shells could be felt in downtown Los Angeles, 15 miles away. U.S. Army planes quickly took to the dark skies, but whether they contacted the object has not been announced. Army officials say they will not comment until they receive a full report of the action. Although some watchers say they saw airplanes in the air, semi-official sources say they probably were the U.S. Army's pursuit. Several observers say they saw 1 or more planes spotlighted by 20 or 30 searchlights. The object moved southward, presumably over Huntington Park at the western edge of Los Angeles, and on southward to about Long Beach on the coast. By 3:30 a.m., observers said the object appeared to be over the south of Long Beach. Searchlights closely followed the object down the coast and kept it centered in their glare. Shells frequently could be seen bursting near the object, but none appeared to hit it. The shooting stopped about 3:30 a.m. The shooting brought warfare to the front door of this city of 1.25 million population for the first time since December 7th. Already it was alert to the presence off the Southern California coast of a Japanese submarine which had pumped 25 shells into an oil field north of Santa Barbara Monday evening. Because of the presence of the submarine, a 3-hour alert was ordered at dusk last night, and civilian authorities stood at their posts while the Army and Navy continued their search for the submersible. The evening alert ended at 10:23 p.m., but another was sounded at 2:22 a.m., and the blackout followed within 3 minutes. It covered Los Angeles County from Santa Monica to Pomona. At 2:27, all Southern California radio stations were ordered off the air, except those in San Diego. Approximately 20 minutes after the firing died down, the ship returned and headed westward from Long Beach toward Santa Monica. The guns went into action again, hurling round after round of shells at the object. The second barrage appeared to be closer to downtown Los Angeles, since watchers could hear the concussion of the guns more clearly and the flash of bursting shells was brighter. Then the ship disappeared for the second time over the ocean. We return you now to CBS in New York.
And that was Byron Palmer on the West Coast. Next, across the Atlantic, we take you now to London and Joseph Evans, Jr.
Good morning. This is London. Despite Prime Minister Churchill's warning yesterday that many months of punishment lay ahead before the Allies could hope for any real victories, Londoners were feeling quite down this morning at the news from Burma. With most of its civilian population evacuated to safer areas in the north, Rangoon, the Burmese capital, was stripped for action to meet the Japanese invaders. Fighting is going on along the line of the Satang River, the British claiming that their forces still hold the west bank, some 70 miles from Rangoon. The Japanese, however, say that their forces, which have been strongly reinforced, have advanced about 30 miles further and have captured Pegu, about 40 miles from the capital. One of the evacuee trains heading for Mandalay was bombed and hit, but there is no report yet of casualties. Chun King reported that for the third time, Chinese troops have prevented the invaders from crossing into northern Burma from the Siamese border, inflicting severe casualties on the Japanese. There is a determination to hold Rangoon just as long as possible. The governor, Sir Reginald Dorman Smith, having announced that if necessary, the port would become a second Tobruk. The latest news from Timor reveals that more Japanese parachute troops have landed near Kopang. Dili, capital of the Portuguese half of the island, is in flames, and Japanese transports in the harbor are also on fire. A strong Japanese naval force has been observed off Dili. The Japanese raided Port Moresby, New Guinea, again today. Reports of yesterday's raid just received show, however, that damage was slight and that only one person was killed and 5 injured. There is no confirmation in London of the reports that British troops were still fighting isolated actions at Singapore. Churchill's disclosure that more than 73,000 British, Australian, and Indian soldiers had been captured when Singapore fell left little hope that any small group still holding out would get very far against the Japs. The Royal Air Force was in action again last night, laying mines in enemy waters. Although the British communique did not reveal the area, the German news agency reported that the planes were over Heligoland Bight, where the 3 big German warships sought shelter after their daring escape from Brest. During the fighter sweep over France yesterday afternoon, the toughness of the Spitfires was proven again when one hit a telephone pole in a low-level attack and still came home, with a part of the broken-off pole jammed in the wing. It was piloted by an American, Pilot Officer J.J. Lynch of Alhambra, California, who was a member of a Royal Canadian Air Force squadron. Lynch admitted that his plane rocked more than a little bit after the collision, but said that he hadn't realized it had been such a near thing until he found a piece of the pole after landing at his home airport. No enemy action was reported over Britain. Questions in the House of Commons yesterday revealed that Germany has promised safe conduct for a ship to carry wheat to starving Greece. The British authorities are still waiting, though, for a similar promise from Italy before sending the relief ship on its way. The Greek government in London reported that its people at home were now dying at the rate of 900 a day from hunger and exhaustion. I return you now to Columbia in New York.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with the case I call The Mysterious Ham. I received a call from a ham operator in the Midwest who thought he was onto something big, spy stuff. He picked up a voice transmitting near a big airbase, and the language was one he couldn't understand. It isn't any language I ever heard in North America, he said, and doesn't sound European or Oriental. I think I'll have an answer for you once I get a listen, I said. And quickly I knew it was no spy. In a moment, I'll tell you who it was. In the case of the mysterious ham, our ham operator friend didn't realize there are dozens of American Indian languages still spoken in America. And today, more than a dozen Indian ham radio operators. Heap big business. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's
Believe it or not.
Cardinal George d'Ambrosio, Prime Minister to King Louis XII of France, inspired the phrase, "Let George do it," 460 years ago. King Louis was lazy, and that was his reply to every request. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you about the woman who was killed by a prophecy. Sophia, Lady Beresford, who was born on February 23rd, 1666, had a dream that she would die on her 47th birthday. Lady Beresford was quite concerned, at least until she thought she had safely passed that birthday. Once that birthday was over, she breathed easier. Then she learned she had consulted the Georgian calendar instead of the Julian calendar. As a result, she died of shock on February 23rd, 1713, on her 47th birthday. Believe it or not.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Colonel Peter Jefferson, who was the father of President Thomas Jefferson, could simultaneously upend 2 hogsheads of tobacco, each weighing 1,000 pounds. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you about one of the strangest robberies in all history. In Lucerne, Switzerland, a grave robber in the mausoleum of General Ludwig Pfeiffer's wife got the scare of his lifetime. The general's wife, who had been interred in the mausoleum the night before, suddenly sat up in her coffin and screamed at him. The lady was still very much alive. Madame Pfeiffer, clad only in a shroud, walked all the way home and lived another 20 years. But she never smiled again. Believe it or not.
There are few of us who have not, at one time or another, had the sensation of reliving an experience which is actually new to us. Indeed, so common is this phenomenon that among psychologists it has acquired a technical name. But there is, on record, one case of a man who actually was familiar with a world that was new and strange.
It was business that took George Lawton to England in the spring of 1914. But after he had spent a few days in London, he succumbed to the temptation to visit his friend, Paul Bixby, who made his home in the historic old town of York. Lawton had never visited York before, and so almost as soon as he arrived, Bixby insisted on taking him for a long walk. He wanted most of all to show him the famous cathedral, known as the Minster.
We're not terribly far from it now. I know you want to see it, George. You probably know it by the name of St. Paul's Cathedral. Is that how they refer to it in the States? I say, George, do they refer to it as St. Paul's in the States? George!
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't listening.
What's the matter with you, old boy? You seem so distracted.
It's a crazy thing, Bixby. This feeling I have, as if everything around here were familiar. I could swear I've been here before. I'm absolutely sure I know this town. Why, I could find my way from one end of it to the other.
Don't be absurd, George. You couldn't find your way from here to the Minster. There are all sorts of twists and turns before we get there.
Well, I won't get lost. Watch me.
And with that, George Lawton started off ahead of his friend. So quickly did he move, and with such absolute certainty, that Bixby found it difficult to keep pace with him. Down winding streets he went, and through crooked alleys. And when at last he came to a halt, he was standing at the old west door of the Minster. And Bixby, coming up to him breathless from exertion, gasped,
"By George, that's amazing. How on earth did you manage to do it?"
But Lawton was not paying very close attention to his friend. His eyes were fixed on a corner a half block down the street, a corner occupied only by a vacant lot.
Whatever happened to the inn, Bixby? The one that used to be on that corner down there.
There never was an inn there. At least, not that I can recall.
But there must have been some time or other. I remember it distinctly.
Later that afternoon, the two men sat in a dusty corner of the public library, huddled over an old map of the city. With eager fingers, they located the Church of St. Paul's. And then they followed the line of the street westward to the nearest corner. And there, they found a legend, written in very small script.
Site of the Golden Ox. Famous old inn. Destroyed by fire in 1628.
And so George Lawson, who had never been to York before, found that he not only knew his way around the streets, but that he even remembered a building which had not been there for almost 300 years. Is it absurd to suggest that this was actually his second visit to York? That in some former life he may even have been a resident of the ancient city? Perhaps it seems absurd. And yet what other explanation can be offered for this baffling mystery? A mystery incredible but true.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with the case I call the Chinese Stamp Caper. While I was in Hong Kong, a dealer offered me some rare Chinese stamps he claimed he discovered in an old temple. One item on which he offered me an excellent price was a Chinese special delivery stamp of 1913, pasted to a postcard. The postcard also bore a scene of the Pekin Palace. The dealer said he'd let me have this rare find for only $500. I said, whatever the price, my friend, you're either a fraud or a fool. In a moment, I'll explain why. In the case of the Chinese Stamp Caper, a Chinese special delivery stamp of 1913, and there was one, was over 7 inches long and 2 inches high, hardly suitable for a postcard. We stamped out a swindler. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with a case I call the canned music. Sometimes the merest slip, the slightest word or two can trip up a suspect, particularly when it's a serious charge. In this case, the charge was murder, and police were holding a youthful suspect. He claimed he was skating with a friend at the time of the murder in a beautiful new rink with stereo, indirect lighting, the works. Skating to the skater's waltz, he said, was great fun. I believe you're lying, I said, and in a moment, I'll explain. In the case of the canned music, a new modern skating rink would probably play modern music, not the skater's waltz. I checked the rink, and the manager proved I was correct. He hadn't even heard of the skater's waltz. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries. This is Ellery Queen with the case I call the Curious Gangland Killing. When a small-time gangster named Lopez was found dead at the bottom of the river, police immediately assumed it was a gangland killing. Lopez was found tied tightly with cotton rope. His legs were bound together with heavy irons. Open and shut case, said the police. But I investigated and found out Lopez had a lot of insurance, and he was suffering from an incurable disease. This wasn't a gangland killing, I insisted, but a case of suicide. The police didn't believe me till I showed them why. In a moment, I'll explain. In the case of the Curious Gangland Killing, you recall Lopez was tied tightly with cotton rope. Actually, he tied himself up loosely, and the cotton rope tightened in the water. By appearing to have been killed, his wife would collect double indemnity, and she almost did. Listen again to Ellery Queen's Minute Mysteries.
The rest of the story. Catherine Littlefield Green was 37. 6 years a widow, struggling to make ends meet, now going home to her little plantation on the Savannah River called Mulberry Grove. You'd never have known to look at her then, standing in the lonely sunset on the deck of that sailing ship, that once upon a time she was the amazing, irrepressible Kitty Green, seemingly limitless wellspring of energy, who won the respect and the admiration of her fledgling nation's greatest men through her considerable courage and charm. Her traveling companion on the voyage from New York to Savannah in that autumn of 1792 was a 27-year-old recent Yale graduate. Young man asked in the twilight quiet, what was it like at Valley Forge? Now, how many women anywhere might you have asked that question? It was grim, Catherine replied. Long, bitter months of hunger and hardship. She had gone to Valley Forge with her husband, Nathaniel Green, one of General Washington's most trusted officers, soon to become Quartermaster General. Well, the young man smiled, recalling the stories that he'd heard of how the Continental troops, bending beneath the burdens of their privation, beginning to lose faith in their cause and in themselves, how they were cheered by Kitty Green's contagious gaiety and gallantry of spirit, and how one night of music and laughter in General Green's quarters, Kitty and George Washington himself danced for 3 hours without once sitting down. Forever after, history books would applaud Kitty Green for her moral support contribution to the winning of American independence. But then one day the war was over. Shortly thereafter, General Green was dead. Effervescent, irrepressible Kitty was Catherine again. But now, what of her traveling companion, the young Yale graduate? He was headed south to become resident tutor for the children of a family across the Savannah River. Perhaps he would visit the Widow Green sometime. Well, he had no idea how soon that sometime would come. For when his teaching plans fell through, he stood before Catherine again, this time beseeching, "What ought I to do now?" And Catherine said, "You may stay at Mulberry Grove until you decide for yourself." And the young man accepted the widow's offer, and he helped out for a while around the plantation. He was especially gifted, it turned out, as a carpenter and a general craftsman. And one day, after he had cleverly devised a new tambour frame for Catherine's embroidery, the mistress of the manor, much impressed, suggested yet another project. "An impossible one," the young man replied. And yet, at Catherine's persistent urging, he set up a workshop in the basement room of the plantation house. He labored there for 6 months, and he emerged a hero. The chronicles of the American Revolution remind us that in the face of unimaginable discouragement, Washington's soldiers and Washington himself were urged onward by an irreplaceable cheerleader named Kitty Green. But after today, you will never forget that the technological achievement of a young Yale graduate named Eli Whitney would surely never have been made except for the suggestion and subsequent constant encouragement of Kitty Green. History hails Eli Whitney as the inventor of the astonishing machine that separates cotton from its seeds, the so-called cotton gin. And that is so, only now you know the rest of the story. The rest of the story. And this is the story of a man who wasn't there. An 18th century landscape and portrait painter, unsung, virtually unrecognized. Not for lack of talent, but for lack of timing. His name was Elias Martin, a truly gifted artist, but ask most any art museum curator about him, and he'll respond, "Elias who?" Inquire at the local consulate of his native Sweden, and they'll reply similarly. Encyclopedias of art may say born March 8, 1739, died January 25, 1818, and yet essentially nothing more. And on the Internet, touted to yield practically everything about anyone. Searches of a variety of sources reveal nothing about Elias Martin. So Elias Martin was the man who wasn't there. All that is about to change because of one day in his life. And that day, 1779, Elias, visiting Shropshire, England, was intrigued by the building in progress of an iron bridge spanning the Severn Gorge. First of all, the river setting was breathtaking. Also, as the artist gazed at the structure under construction, he could see that when complete, its graceful arc would combine with the reflection in the water to make a perfect circle. And so, the painter, inspired, got out his paints and went to work. His lovely landscape would depict the freestanding ironwork of the bridge being born. The stone abutments on either bank of the Severn had not yet been laid. But could the mostly anonymous Elias Martin have then imagined the controversy that would arise over that construction project in generations to come? For you see, the bridge's designer, Shrewsbury architect Thomas Pritchard, died less than a year after construction began. And after the bridge was officially opened on New Year's Day, 1781, every diagram, every sketch, every report in hard copy pursuant to its creation disappeared. So for hundreds of years, engineers would conjecture and debate over how the builder, Abraham Darby, assembled the intricate 400-ton iron structure over what was then the busiest riverside in England or Europe. History books hail the iron bridge over Severn Gorge as the first ever iron bridge anywhere in the world. But how? Well, now, an obscure artist's obscure painting, recently discovered, because of the day it was painted, settles once and for all the anxious question, remarkably demonstrating a heretofore unguessed solution to the mystery, the placement of freestanding iron arches using only 2 wooden derricks instead of river-spanning scaffolds, an ingenious and radical departure from conventional bridge-building methods of the day. So now, just now, Elias Martin is somebody. Suddenly he's the solitary key to unraveling one of the greatest enigmas in the age-long annals of architectural endeavor. For Elias Martin, who until this moment has attracted the attention of practically nobody, immortalized himself by being in the right place at the right time. For centuries it has been Elias who, but because the man who wasn't there was there, standing on a riverbank in Shropshire, England, the worldwide disciplines of engineering and art, from now and for all time, will celebrate the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. This is a medical case study, the anatomy of an illness. The patient's name was Anna. Age 75. She complained to her doctor of chronic fatigue. He ran some tests. She had feared cancer. It was not. The diagnosis, aplastic anemia. The cause is usually unknown, and this was so in Anna's case. But in any event, she was given appropriate treatment, and then the doctor began wondering, what if his diagnosis were wrong? What if, instead of aplastic anemia, Anna had some slowly developing form of leukemia, or even another kind of blood disease? Her white count, once 2,000, was now up to 3,400. So far, so good, but some of the cells did not appear as they should. A definitive test could be performed from a bone marrow sample. But why, thought the doctor? Anything he would find in the marrow would be fatal anyway. So there would be no exotic tests for the time being. That determination was made in July. End of October. The patient was still demonstrating the symptoms of an infection, although without any localizing symptoms. For more than a week, Anna had had night chills and sweats. However, those had all but disappeared. A recent blood test showing her white count at 5,800 was also encouraging, but Anna's doctors were still concerned. This was more than aplastic anemia. One doctor was sure of it. And if that mystery ailment were identifiable and treatable, then it ought to be identified and treated as soon as possible. Over the following year, a number of specialists were consulted. There was a blood specialist who was certain that Anna's illness was atypical, a leukemia, and a cancer specialist who diagnosed atypical cancer. Anna's original doctor, whose name incidentally was David Gurewitch, had settled on a brand new hunch. His hunch was TB, tuberculosis. But that disease was far from his field of expertise, so they called in a tuberculosis specialist, who then declared that whatever Anna had, it was not tuberculosis. Well, through all of this, the patient is getting sicker. And by the time it was discovered that Dr. Dave, the non-specialist, had been correct, that Anna did in fact and indeed have TB, by then it was too late. And Anna died of tuberculosis in November of 1962. But this is the rest of the story. In the final months of Anna's illness, while the doctors were duking it out with one another, jealously fighting over whose disease was right and who was in charge, one of them, and maybe more than one of them, had been treating Anna according to the original diagnosis, aplastic anemia. Oh no, Anna did not have aplastic anemia. But among the medications her doctors prescribed for it was the drug prednisone. And prednisone actually activates, encourages, spreads tuberculosis. It was an honest, even understandable mistake, but it cost Anna her life, and it cost the world Anna Eleanor Roosevelt. And now you know the rest of the story.
Rest of the story. Frank picked the phone up on the first ring. The voice said, "Hello, this is John." Frank said, "What can I do for you?" And the voice said, "It's what I cannot do for you. I cannot teach your wife to shoot a gun." Frank said, "Well, now, we've been over this," but John interrupted. If there was one person anywhere who should not carry a loaded firearm, it was Frank's wife. She had been down to the shooting range. She'd gone through more rounds of ammunition than Wellington at Waterloo. She had earnestly, honestly tried her best. But the bottom line was, said John, quote, "She can't hit a barn door." Frank was quiet for a moment. These were dangerous times, he said at last. Times when no one, much less a defenseless woman, should be roaming about alone. But Frank's wife had her own ideas. She had her own car, which she loved to drive by herself. She enjoyed walking about the city and often did unaccompanied. At least Frank had beseeched, if she were determined to take such risks, she must carry a pistol in her car, and better still, in her purse. And that's where John came in. He had access to a target range. He had expertise to spare. If anyone could transform Frank's wife into Annie Oakley, John could, but he couldn't. He couldn't. So Frank, exasperated and concerned, put his foot down. Even if she was not a good shot, he insisted his wife must carry the gun anyway, and dutifully she said that she would. But this is the rest of the story. Years later, the son of a friend, a good-looking young man named Garrett Entrup, did some house painting for Frank's wife. She wanted to pay him for his work, but Garrett refused. That prompted the woman to present him with a gift instead. That's right, it was that gun. The gun that she had been asked to carry years previous. "Did you ever get to shoot it?" young Garrett wanted to know. "Well, not at anyone," she answered. And then she confided that in order to travel about on her own, she had promised her husband that the revolver would always be handy, but she had lied. Uncomfortable carrying a loaded weapon, she had put the pistol in a dresser drawer, and she had left it there until just moments ago. And now she said it was Garrett's, provided that he keep it in the same spirit of peace, and Garrett promised that he would. Now, why anybody should be interested to know this now is because the dangerous times which had so concerned Frank on his wife's behalf, those dangerous times were more than half a century ago. You see, the man who had failed to make her a sharpshooter was the nation's top cop, John Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover. And yes, I do mean to say that when First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt refused Secret Service protection of any kind, when she refused to have the Secret Service tagging along, she appeased her husband Franklin by promising to carry a gun, but she couldn't shoot worth a hoot. And now you know the rest of the story. The rest of the story. It had been a lovely evening. It had been a wonderful evening. The first-class lounge on the SS Manhattan had been alive with laughter and song. Tomorrow the opulent ocean liner would dock at Bremerhaven. The festivities would continue. Spirits were high. It was in this effervescent mood, encouraged by an ever-so-slight excess of champagne, that young Eleanor Jarrett returned to her stateroom that night. She was just reaching out for the doorknob, in fact, when she encountered Mrs. Ada Sackett, an acquaintance on the voyage. Mrs. Sackett was aghast. She told Eleanor, "Why, you look terrible." The younger woman replied that in all of her life she'd never felt better. "Just the same," began Mrs. Sackett. Well, she didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she put one arm around Eleanor's waist, led her into the stateroom. The assistance was unwelcome. Eleanor protested accordingly, but she deposited herself on the bed, after which Mrs. Sackett admonished, "Now stay there. I'm calling for a nurse and the ship's doctor." And smiling, Eleanor drifted off to sleep on the soft pillow. She had no intention of going anywhere, and moments later she was blissfully unconscious. Only upon awakening in an aching fog the following morning did Eleanor learn the rest of the story. You see, Eleanor Holm became Eleanor Holm Jarrett
upon marrying popular singer Art Jarrett in 1933. She was only 19, and yet already she'd led an exciting and glamorous life. At 16, she was invited to become a Ziegfeld Follies girl, and shortly thereafter, she was awarded a $500 a week motion picture contract with Warner Brothers. She studied drama with Clark Gable's first wife, partied with the Hollywood elite. Her beauty and her charm and her talent opened doors that few young women could even budge ajar. But then, at the height of her own popularity, age 22, she took an ocean cruise. The adventure she anticipated on the other side of the Atlantic ought to have been the greatest and most successful of her life. But then, after socializing with other passengers the night before docking in Bremerhaven, she was discovered in a state of pleasant inebriation, and at once her fondest dream was dead. For you see, the principal talent of the beautiful and talented Eleanor Holmes Jarrett was swimming. For 4 years, the world records in the 100-meter and the 200-meter backstroke belonged to her. And now, in 1936, she was favored to retain her status at the Olympic Games in Berlin. Many considered it a mission back then for the Americans to vanquish Hitler's super racers, but instead it was a girl from the Netherlands who won the gold in Eleanor's strongest event because Eleanor was not even permitted to compete. I said Eleanor was not even permitted to compete. It will be difficult for us to imagine today, 6 decades later. Now, when the specter of drugs and even violence casts long shadows over international athletic competitions, and yet competitors are allowed to compete anyway. But once upon an Olympics, America's hopes for a gold medal in swimming were dashed. When the competitor favored to win, Eleanor Holmes Jarrett was banished from the Olympic team for sipping champagne. And now you know the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. $1.5 million worth of junk? That is what folks were saying about the proposed artwork, which was about to blight their otherwise fair city, a pile of meaningless metal, 7,000 tons of garbage. Seems all of the big towns in the United States and a growing number of small ones had something like it, a self-glorifying monument to some egocentric artist's dubious genius, a hunk of something or other, variously regarded as futuristic or revolutionary, a waste of space. They adorn or disturb, depending on one's viewpoint, city plazas and public buildings, outdoors and in, usually outdoors, where the most possible people may be either enthralled or disgusted. Many such modern sculptures have moving parts. Others are totally useless. One cannot practice medicine in our country without having proved medical school graduation. In law, it's the bar. And yet what test, might we ask, must one pass to qualify as a modern artist? As one privileged to decorate public places at will. And that's just what these townspeople were wondering when the incredible announcement was made. What on earth this Gustav, whatever his name was, would smudge their nice, clean, clear home with some horrible industrial-looking so-called modern mess? Well, it was a committee that made the decision, naturally, a discerning one, too, the committee itself claimed. Indeed, they'd passed up a number of proposals before agreeing upon this one controversial one. They'd sought an artwork of well-defined character, they said, one which would stand out as an original masterpiece in the metals industry. Presumably, Gustav's tons of tin filled the bill. Complaints were informal in the beginning, mostly because few believed such an atrocity would ever be permitted. But when a site was officially chosen and creation of the monstrosity actually began, there was heard an uproar unprecedented in those parts. Even the culturally elite, including legitimate artists, were vociferously indignant. In fact, 47 such composed and signed a vehement protest addressed to the Chief of Public Works. The scathing letter began, writers, painters, sculptors, architects, passionate lovers of the heretofore intact beauty of this fair city, we come to protest. It was more than a citywide matter. The taste of the entire nation had been betrayed, they said. The art and the history of the whole country had been threatened, they said. Useless, they declared. Monstrous, others said. This thing some called a horror would dishonor and disfigure their city forever after. A factory chimney. Can you imagine that, crushing everything beneath its barbarous mass? It was a very long letter, including all of that scathing denunciation, which in the end accomplished nothing because the strange, controversial project was completed. For the Grand Exposition of 1889, it was completed. Some citizens left the city. A few left the country because of it. A few left the country because of it. And yet, on the whole, the people of Paris did learn to live with what at first had seemed such a humiliation. A 1,000-foot tower conceived and constructed by an artist-architect named Gustav Eiffel. Paul Harvey, are you talking about the Eiffel Tower? I'm talking about the Eiffel Tower. And the rest of the story.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
There was a shoe worn by the ancient Egyptians with the outline of an enemy on its sole, so that the wearer could stamp on his enemy with each step he took. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you the story of a very remarkable man. Billy Marshall, a tinker of Kirkcudbright, Scotland, was truly a most remarkable man. In his earlier years, he enlisted in the Army and the Navy 10 times. Each time he enlisted, he deserted without ever being caught. He outlived 17 wives, and he became the father of 4 children after he was 100 years of age. He finally died in the year 1792 at the age of 120 years. Believe it or not.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
The Death's Head Moth was first seen in Blinkenwood, England on January 30th, 1649, on the very day King Charles I of England was beheaded. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you the unusual story of the only people who never get fat. Here's a way to make sure you stay on your diet. Take a lesson from the natives of the Nuba tribe in Africa. They cut small portholes as the only entrance to their huts. By doing this, they keep their families very figure conscious. Any member of the family who does not eat sparingly eventually will not fit through the small opening, and therefore is automatically barred from the house. Believe it or not.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Judge Abraham Fuller of Newton, Massachusetts, was so fanatically opposed to debts that when a physician was called to write out his death certificate, the doctor found his fee in the dead man's clenched fist. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you about an unusual railway. Cable cars in San Francisco have added charm and transportation for many years. Equally unusual is the Cliff Railway near Lynmouth, England. It has 900 feet of rails bolted to the solid rock of a cliff, and its 2 cars are operated with water. Water flows into the tank of the car at the top, and as it starts down, it pulls up the other car, which has been lightened by draining its water tank. Believe it or not.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
The steeple of the parish church of Eccles, England, was buried under sand by a gale in 1605 and was exposed again by high winds 275 years later. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you the strange story of George Thompson. One of the most unusual expressions of sorrow was shown by George Thompson of Pomfret, Connecticut, who literally clothed himself in sadness. He did it as a mourning gesture for his fiancée, who died on the eve of their marriage. As a constant reminder of his great loss, he wore the clothing that he had planned to wear on his wedding day for the remaining 30 years of his life. Believe it or not.
Unsolved Mysteries. unsolved mystery is laid in that land of many mysteries, India, where squalor and wealth side by side bow the head and bend the knee to strange gods. India, where every bazaar, every temple, every compound has its fakir or holy man, a sort of privileged beggar whom white men and black alike fear more than they admit. The scene is the United Services Club in Simla. Officers in their stiffly starched tropical mess dress sit around the veranda cooling off under a waving punkah, while barefooted native servants carry trays of glasses which resound to the musical and appetizing tinkle of cubes of ice.
By Jove, Colonel, I'll say this for India. You certainly know how to make yourselves comfortable.
We have to, Buckley. If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to stick it out in the hot season. But tell me, Buckley, what exactly did you mean when you said, I'll say this for India?
Oh, nothing in particular, Colonel. Of course, you fellows don't realize it. But you're always prefacing a remark or following it with, but this is India. Well, I mean, it's all right to stuff the folks back home with all the tommy rot about India's lure and India's mystery, and it couldn't happen anyplace else but India. But after all, you know, the natives here are just ordinary human beings, no different from any place else.
Listen, Buckley, you've been out here exactly 4 months now. You will, if you're wise, never curse a native, never laugh at his fears, never ridicule his ideas. And above all, don't try to show your superiority by trying to expose one of their fakirs.
You actually mean, Colonel, that you believe in their superstitious bunk?
Listen, Buckley, I like you. Pull your chair over this way a little, and I'll tell you something. A good number of years ago, I was promoted to captain. I had 3 months' leave in England. I was young, very proud of my captain's pips. I fell in love with every pretty girl I saw back home. Well, I fell hard for a school-day sweetheart. We were married, and Dorothy and I sailed on the P&O. Had a marvelous trip. Landed at Bombay, and I found orders waiting for me to proceed on duty at Bangalore. I wired Lal Singh, my bearer, and told him to get everything ready. Caught the train, and just at dusk, we pulled up at my quarters.
Greetings, Captain Sahib.
Cheerio, Lal Singh. Lal Singh, here's the new men's side.
The servant is honored.
And this, darling, is what we call the living room. And in there, behind the bead curtain, in the combination smoking room, den library, card room, and general sort of get-together place.
Books, and more books. I'm going to spend hours in there when you're on duty. Oh, and a complete set of Kipling.
Yes, and anything you want that isn't there, why, just ask for it. Why, Dorothy, what's wrong?
Oh, Georgia, I'm afraid. Something came over me.
What?
I don't know. It seemed as if someone were trying to compel me to do something. I grew cold all over. Afraid. Look, George. Who's that out there in the compound, in front of that clump of tamarisk?
Where? Oh, the old fakir. He hangs around here quite a bit. Harmless old duffer.
Send him away. He's doing this to me. I know he is.
Oh, my dear, you're tired.
Please, George, send him away. I can't stand to even see him.
But, Dorothy, I can't do that. I can't send him away.
Why can't you? Why can't you tell someone to get off your own ground?
Well, it's a little bit hard to understand, Dorothy, for a stranger here. But one doesn't order fakirs to do anything. The natives would be offended. It might incur some of the natives' dislike.
You can offer that and my fear of him?
Now, my dear, listen to reason. We're in India now, not jolly old England, you know. And we must do things according to the country.
And telling a dirty, smelly native to get off your own property is against the custom of the country, is it?
By Jove, yes, you know. It really isn't done, don't you see? Yes, sir? Oh, yes, sir. Oh, too bad. Why, yes, of course. Just as soon as I can slip into service dogs. Why, yes, sir. Righto. No, I won't bother to change. Old Tubby's down with a touch of fever. I have to take guard duty tonight. Lal Singh?
Yes, Sahib.
Sword and service cap.
Oh, George, I don't want to be left alone.
Oh, but you're not alone, my dear. There's Lal Singh, and Ahmed is in the compound, and the Bestie and the water carrier sleeps all night on the veranda.
I wish you didn't have to go.
Oh, you've got to help out when a chap goes down with fever, don't you know? Might be my turn someday. Oh, cheerio.
Goodbye. Oh, let me see. Oh, here's Kipling's at the end of the passage. Whew, that ought to be a good test for nerves.
Sahib.
Yes, Lal Singh. Oh, you, the fakir. What do you want? Get out. You've no right coming into this room.
The Mem Sahib does not like old Rasam, huh?
No, I don't. And I don't want you near me. Now go. I'll call Lal Singh.
Lal Singh. A simple child. He would not dare enter the room while Rasam Beg is present.
Will you please go?
And the Mem Sahib has given to me the thing which I desire.
What do you want? I'll give you anything to get you out of here.
Rasam Beg wants so little. One strand of the Mem Sahib's hair. No more.
One strand of my hair? What on earth for?
The Mem Sahib would not understand. It is for a charm for my nephew who is in the hill country and very sick.
Oh, all right, I'll give you a strand of my hair. Go out on the veranda. I'll bring it.
The Mem Sahib is very kind. Old Assam will not forget. I wait on the veranda.
I'm not being kind. I'm doing it to get rid of you. Ridiculous idea. Strand of my hair. I'd like to make a fool of him and his charms. And I can, too. That Chinese rug. It's made of hairs almost the identical color of mine. I'll get a stand of it. Here's your strand of hair.
Oh, there are some thanks, the Mem Sahib. And now for the present, goodbye. Goodbye.
Oh, thank goodness he's gone. I wonder where Lal Singh can be. Why didn't you keep that fakir out of the bungalow? Lal Singh? No answer. What can have happened? Lal Singh! Lal Singh, where are you? Something's wrong, I know it is. Lal Singh! Everything's going wrong, turning black. The clock is grinning at me. The hands are spinning so fast it makes me dizzy. Dizzy.
Come on, Lal Singh. Dorothy, where are you? Oh, good Lord, she's fainted. Here, Lal Singh, help me.
Lift her onto with her coat, Sahib. That is the way, yes.
Oh, what happened? Where am I? Oh, George, don't leave me.
You're all right, Dorothy. Tell me if you can. What happened?
Why did you come back?
Lal Singh ran down to the barracks for me when he saw the fakir come onto the veranda.
Why didn't he stay and help me?
He couldn't raise his hand against the fakir, my dear. But never mind. Tell me what happened.
That fakir came in here. He wouldn't leave till I gave him a strand of my hair.
You gave him one?
No, I didn't. I fooled him. I gave him a strand from that Chinese rug in the other room.
Oh, that's the stuff, darling. That's thinking on your feet.
But what could he want with a strand of my hair?
I don't know, but this I do know. When I lay hands on him...
What about the natives, my dear? You can't even touch a fakir, you know.
Can't I? You just wait and see whether I can.
What's that?
It's all right, my dear. Something in the back room fell down.
But I know it isn't all right. I've got that horrible feeling again.
Sahib!
Look in the passage. Something moving, rising, a twisting
Keep your
shadow.
head. I got my gun now. Don't faint when I fire.
You didn't touch it.
But I know I hit it. Good Lord, it's dancing out on the veranda. It's a Chinese rug.
Right through the mosquito curtain.
Hey, come on, stick by me. Lal Singh.
Yes, Sahib.
A lamp, hurry, jolly.
Sahib.
Look, there it is on the ground, just in front of the tamarisk, rising on the ground. Children, love with that lamp.
Here it is, Sahib.
I can't believe it. It's impossible.
Oh, no, my dear, not impossible, not impossible. It is.
The Chinese rug, Sahib. 2 bullet holes in it. It saved Imam Sahib's life.
Yes, Lal, the Chinese rug. And it saved more than the Mem Sahib's life. Well, that is an amazing story. That, Major, happened to Dorothy and me. We never talk of it. But you see, old chap, I never sneered at native beliefs. But, Colonel, you didn't finish your story. What do you mean? Well, what about the fakir? Did you horse sit him? I didn't have to. No? No. Next morning, Lal Singh came and got me. We went out into the compound, and there, right in front of that clump of tamarisk, wrapped in the strangling folds of the Chinese rug, lay the old fakir, dead.
Out of deference to people who are still alive, character names in these unsolved mysteries have been changed. Inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and character exist in the solution that will be presented after you have heard from your sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution for which you have been waiting.
But tell me, Colonel, didn't you ever try to find out how such a thing could be possible? You understand, of course, that workers in black magic, whether they be in Haiti, Africa, or India, believe that something personal, a strand of hair, fingernail clipping, and such like, are an essential ingredient of the formula of their black art. And your wife, Dorothy, in taking a strand of hair from the Chinese rug and giving that to the fakir, prevented his powers from controlling her. Exactly. All the concentration, all the pent-up fury, the hatred and diabolical cunning of the fakir was leveled at the object most closely connected with that strand of hair. I can understand that. And I can understand, since you say it is so, that the fakir might have done harm to Dorothy, who was a living being. But that such power could really affect a thing like a rug is something else again. Scientists are divided in their opinion as to how such things are possible. But here, let me show you a brief quotation from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Physical phenomena can be grouped under two main heads. Telekinesis, or the movement of objects at a distance other than by ordinary physical means, and teleplasmy, or the extrusion from the body of the medium of a substance sometimes amorphous, sometimes resembling portions of the human body or even complete figures. Phenomena of both these kinds have long been familiar. I end the quotation. Then telekinesis, the movement of an object, is recognized by scientists as being possible? Decidedly so. And I can assure you that if you live in India long enough, you will see more than one demonstration of the power of concentrated mind over purely inanimate matter. Thank you, Colonel. But after hearing your story, I really don't believe that I want to.